The galaxy had seen many wars, but none like this. On the outer edge of known space, a small alliance of alien species was slowly dying. Their stars still shone, their planets still turned, but hope was fading fast. Every day, more ships vanished. Every hour, another world went silent. They called the enemy the Harvesters. No one knew where the Harvesters came from. No one knew what they wanted. They did not speak. They did not warn. They arrived, destroyed everything, and moved on. Entire civilizations disappeared without leaving a single survivor. The KRYTH Alliance Council gathered in an underground chamber deep beneath their capital world. The room was dark, cold, and filled with fear. Large holographic screens showed burning planets and broken fleets. One by one, the council members spoke. We have lost 17 systems. Our defenses failed in minutes. Our people are running out of places to hide. Silence followed each report. Everyone knew the truth. They were losing. The KRYTH were not weak. They had powerful ships, strong weapons, and advanced technology. But none of it mattered. The Harvesters were faster, smarter, endless. A council elder stood slowly. His skin was pale with stress, his voice shaking. There's one option left. The room turned toward him. No! Another council member said at once. We will not speak that name. We must, the elder replied, or we will all die. The holographic screen changed. A new file appeared. It was old, very old. Species designation, humanity, origin world, Earth, environment class, Deathworld. Murmurs filled the chamber. Humans, a species most of the galaxy avoided. Humans came from a planet with extreme weather, violent predators, constant natural disasters, and crushing gravity. Their world tried to kill them every day, and they survived it. Humans were not officially hostile, but they were dangerous. Their history was filled with wars, internal conflicts, weapons made not just to win, but to terrify. They are unstable, one counselor said. They enjoy combat, another added. They fight even when injured, whispered third. The elder nodded slowly. Yes, and that is why we need them. The council argued for hours. Some said contacting humans would bring more danger. Some said humans might ignore the call. Some feared humans would take control after the war. But every argument ended the same way. If they did nothing, there would be no future to argue about. At last, the council voted. The decision passed by one single vote. They would send a distress call to humanity. The message was written carefully. No threats, no commands. Only truth. We are under attack. We are losing. We need help. The signal was sent across the stars, aimed toward a distant yellow star called Sol. When the transmission ended, the chamber fell silent. No one cheered. No one felt relief. They waited. Hours passed. Then days. The Harvesters continued their advance. Another KRYTH world burned. Refugee ships crowded the skies. The council began to believe the humans would never answer. Then, on the third day, an alert sounded. A junior officer rushed into the chamber. Counselors, we have a response. The hologram flickered. Not words. Coordinates. Thousands of them. Then a single short message appeared, written in simple galactic code. Signal received. Stand by. The council stared in confusion. That's all, someone asked. Before anyone could respond, space itself seemed to break. Sensors across the KRYTH system began screaming warnings. Energy spikes. Mass readings. Unidentified jump signatures. Something was coming. Not one ship. Not 10. Hundreds. Then thousands. Human warships tore through hyperspace like claws ripping through fabric. They were massive, dark, and scarred. These were not elegant vessels built for display. They were built for survival and war. The KRYTH defense officers watched in stunned silence as the human fleet assembled without hesitation. No confusion. No panic. Every ship moved with purpose. A human transmission opened on all channels. The voice was calm, controlled, almost bored. This is Admiral Hayes of the United Earth Fleet, A pause. "We received your distress call." The KRYTH Council waited, breath held. "We are entering your system now." Another pause. Point us at the enemy. Fear and hope mix in the chamber. The Council finally understood something important. The humans had not asked why. They had not asked what it would cost. They had answered the call without hesitation. And far beyond the system's edge, the harvesters were still coming. They had no idea what had just arrived. The arrival of the human fleet changed the feeling of the entire system. Before the humans came, fear ruled everything. KRYTH ships are behind planets. Civilian stations powered down their lights. Everyone waited for the harvesters to arrive and finish the war. Now, something else filled the air. Uncertainty. The human ships were unlike anything the KRYTH had ever seen. They were not smooth or beautiful. Their hulls were dark, thick, and covered in scars. Some ships carried visible damage that had never been repaired. Others displayed strange markings and symbols painted across their armor. "These ships have survived many battles," a KRYTH officer whispered. "They look like they expect more," another replied. The human fleet did not spread out to defend. They moved forward, slowly, confidently, like hunters who already knew where their prey would run. Inside the flagship, Admiral Hayes studied the tactical display. He was an older human, calm and focused. Around him, officers worked in silence. There was no panic, no shouting. Every person knew their role. "Any response from the enemy?" Hayes asked. "None, sir," an officer replied. "Harvesters are still advancing on their current path." Hayes nodded. "They won't change course," he said. "They never do." The KRYTH Command Council listened to the human channels with confusion. The humans spoke as the enemy were already understood, already predictable. "How do they know so much?" one counselor asked. "They have fought enemies like this before," the elder replied quietly. "Maybe not the same species, but the same idea." The first Harvester Scouts entered the system only hours later. They were massive, twisted shapes of metal and organic matter, moving with perfect coordination. KRYTH defenses opened fire out of habit. The shots did nothing. Normally, this was where panic began. But the humans did not react. "Hold fire," Admiral Hayes ordered calmly. KRYTH commander stared in disbelief. "They're not attacking?" one demanded. "They're waiting," another replied, voice tight with fear. The Harvester Scouts moved closer. Then the humans acted. Human ships surged forward at full speed. Not in neat lines. Not in formation. They broke apart, surrounding the enemy from multiple angles. Weapons fire lit up space. Human guns did not glow like energy weapons. They struck hard and fast. Solid projectiles, missiles, and focused beams tore into the Harvester Scouts. Armor cracked. Hulls burst apart. One Harvester ship exploded in silence. Then another. The KRYTH had never seen Harvesters destroyed so quickly. "They're killing them," a KRYTH officer said softly. "No," another corrected. "They're hunting them." The remaining Harvester Scouts tried to retreat. The humans chased them. Human pilots pushed their ships beyond safe limits. Engines burned hot. Hulls shook. Warnings screamed inside human cockpits. No one slowed down. Boarding alarms suddenly sounded on multiple human ships. The KRYTH panicked. "They are boarding human vessels." "Humans, pull back!" a counselor shouted into the channel. No one survives Harvester boarding. Admiral Hayes did not respond. Instead, a new channel opened. Live combat footage streamed across the command center. Human soldiers moved through dark corridors filled with smoke and fire. They wore heavy armor, scratched and dented. Some were already bleeding. They did not retreat. They advanced. Harvester creatures attacked with claws and blades. Humans met them with close-range weapons, explosives, and bare hands. A human soldier was thrown against a wall. He stood back up and charged again. "They should be dead," a KRYTH officer whispered. But the humans kept fighting. One human voice laughed through the channel. "Is that all you got?" The KRYTH Council watched in silence as human boarding teams wiped out the Harvester crews and took control of the ships. Minutes later, the humans turned the capture vessels around and destroyed them. The message was clear. Nothing would be allowed to escape. The main harvester fleet finally arrived. It was enormous. Thousands of ships. Enough firepower to erase entire systems. The KRYTH felt despair return, but the humans did not retreat. Admiral Hayes looked at the display and spoke calmly. All units, this is it. Human ships moved into position, not defensively, offensively. The KRYTH realized something terrifying. Humans were not here to protect worlds. They were here to end the threat forever. A human officer turned to Hayes. Permission to release ground forces? The KRYTH froze. Ground forces? One counselor asked in horror. On harvester ships? Hayes nodded. Approved, he said. Drop pods launched from human vessels like falling stars. They slammed into harvester hulls and burned through armor. Inside each pod were humans trained for environments that would kill most species in seconds. Zero gravity, radiation, toxic air, death world conditions. The KRYTH elder lowered his head. We should never have feared them, he said quietly. We should have feared the enemies they were made to fight. Far beyond the battlefield, harvester command signals changed. For the first time in their long history, the harvesters did something new. They hesitated, and humans never gave an enemy time to think. The battle spread across the system like a storm. Human ships moved fast, cutting to the harvester fleet in sharp, brutal strikes. They did not stay in one place. They attacked, vanished, and attacked again. Every movement was aggressive, precise, and filled with intent. The KRYTH fleets tried to follow, but they could not keep up. Human ships are exceeding safe acceleration, a KRYTH officer said in disbelief. That would crush our pilots, another replied. But the humans kept going. Inside a human assault ship, Captain Marichin watched her squad prepare for another boarding run. Her armor was scratched, her face calm. Around her, soldiers checked weapons and sealed helmets. No one spoke about fear, only about timing. 30 seconds, the pilot said. The ship shook as enemy fire struck the hull. Warning lights flashed red. Hold steady, Chin ordered. They can't stop us now. The assault ship slammed into a harvester cruiser. Magnetic clamps locked on. Cutting beams burned through alien armor. Go, Chin said. Her team entered darkness. Inside the harvester ship, gravity shifted without warning. The air burned their lungs. The walls pulsed like living tissue. Lovely place, one soldier muttered. Harvester warriors attacked from every direction. Their movements were fast and silent. Human weapons answered loudly. Bullets tore through alien bodies. Explosives cleared corridors. Humans advanced step by step, pushing deeper into the ship. One soldier fell, bleeding badly. Medic, someone shouted. The wounded soldier grabbed his rifle and pulled himself up. Later, he said. Finish the job. The KRYTH command watched the feed, horrified. They are injured, a counselor said. Yes, the elder replied, and they are still advancing. Across the battlefield, humans repeated the same pattern again and again. They boarded, they fought, they destroyed. The harvesters tried to adapt. They sealed corridors, flooded sections with radiation, ventilated ships into space. Humans survived. They sealed suits, injected stimulants, held on to wreckage with magnetic boots, and kept firing. A harvester command node was discovered. When humans destroyed it, the enemy fleet faltered. For the first time, harvester ships lost coordination. They're confused, a KRYTH tactician said. They're learning fear, another replied. The harvesters responded with a new weapon. A massive energy wave spread across the system. It struck mines instead of hulls. KRYTH crews collapsed in pain. Communication networks failed. Human ships flickered. Some went dark. The KRYTH believed the humans had finally been stopped. Then human channels reopened. Static cleared. Human voices returned. We're still here, a human officer said calmly. Admiral Hayes appeared on screen, blood running down his temple. That was impressive, he said. Do it again and we'll adjust. The harvesters attacked again. This time, humans were ready. Human scientists had already begun countermeasures. Neural dampeners activated. Ships shifted formation. When the psychic wave hit again, human crews gritted their teeth and pushed through it. They advanced anyway. KRYTH commanders stared in disbelief. They feel pain, one whispered. Yes, the elder replied. But pain does not stop them. On the ground of a shattered KRYTH moon, human troops fought alongside alien defenders. The surface was frozen, air thin, gravity unstable. Perfect conditions for humans. Harvester landing forces were strong and numerous. Humans met them head-on. They used terrain. They used traps. They used each other. When ammunition ran low, humans fought with blades. When blades broke, they used fists. The KRYTH soldiers watched humans protect alien civilians without hesitation. Humans placed themselves between enemies and shelters, taking hits meant for others. Why do they care? A KRYTH commander asked. They always have, the elder answered, even when fighting themselves. The harvesters began retreating from the moon. Humans followed. No mercy. No pause. Admiral Hayes gave a new order. All fleets pushed toward Harvester command space. The KRYTH Council gasped. That is enemy territory, one said. Yes, Hayes replied, and it ends today. Human fleets changed direction as one. The harvesters tried to block them. They failed. Human ships broke through defensive lines with overwhelming force. Then something new appeared on sensors. A massive structure at the edge of the system. A harvester core station. It dwarfed anything the KRYTH had seen before. That's where they're coming from, a KRYTH tactician whispered. Hayes studied the image. All units, he said quietly. This is the source. The human fleet slowed. Weapons powered up. Boarding pods prepared. The harvesters gathered everything they had left around the station. They were desperate. So were the humans. The battle paused for one brief moment. Then Admiral Hayes spoke one final command. Humanity advances. And the galaxy held its breath. The space around the Harvester core station was filled with fire and wreckage. This was no normal battle. It was the heart of the enemy. The place where entire civilizations had been erased by command alone. The Harvester station was enormous. It looked like a living moon made of metal and bone. Energy shields covered its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. KRYTH commanders believed it was impossible to attack. Humans disagreed. Admiral Hayes studied the station in silence. He had fought many wars, but this was different. This was not about territory or pride. This was about ending a nightmare. Begin Phase 1, Hayes ordered. Human ships moved forward slowly. They did not rush. They spread out, forming a wide arc around the station. The harvesters reacted instantly. Thousands of defense weapons fired at once. Space filled with energy beams and missiles. Human ships were hit. Some exploded. Others kept moving, even with half their hulls torn away. KRYTH officers cried out in fear. Human ships are being destroyed. Yes, a human officer replied calmly. They knew the risk. Phase 1 was sacrifice. Human ships pushed forward and absorbed the full force of the station's weapons. Their job was not to survive. It was to learn. Every impact fed data back to the fleet. Shield patterns, weapon cycles, weak points, data collected. An officer said. Phase 2, Hayes replied. Human ships changed tactics instantly. They attacked in short, violent bursts. They aimed not at the station itself, but at its support nodes, power relays, weapon controls, sensor clusters. One by one, parts of the station went dark. The harvesters adapted. They released clouds of autonomous drones, small and fast. They swarmed human ships, cutting into armor and engines. KRYTH commanders expected humans to pull back. Instead, humans did something terrifying. They detonated their own ships. Controlled explosions ripped through the drone swarms, destroying thousands at once. The KRYTH stared in horror. They're destroying themselves. No, the elder said quietly. They're choosing the moment. Human escape pods launched just before each blast. Survivors were picked up by other ships without slowing down. Human lives were precious. Human victory was essential. Phase 3, Hayes said. Drop pods launched by the hundreds. These were not normal boarding teams. These were Deathworld units. Soldiers trained for the worst conditions imaginable. Extreme gravity, toxic air, constant pain. The pod smashed into the station's surface, drilling deep inside. Inside the station, conditions were deadly. Gravity shifted wildly. Temperatures spiked. The air was poisonous. Humans adapted. They injected drugs to boost strength. They rerouted suit systems. They pushed through pain that would kill other species. Harvester defenders attacked in waves. Humans fought in close combat. Short-range weapons. Blades. Fire. The station shook as internal systems failed. Human teams reached key control chambers and destroyed them from the inside. The KRYTH watched in stunned silence. They are fighting inside a living weapon, one whispered. That is where they are strongest, the elder replied. The harvesters released their final defense. A system-wide pulse that shut down technology. Human ships went dark. Weapons failed. Engines died. The KRYTH screamed. It's over. Admiral Hayes closed his eyes. Then he smiled. Switch to manual, he said. Human ships reactivated partially. Old systems. Mechanical controls. No automation. Human pilots took direct control. They flew by instinct, by experience, by stubborn refusal to die. The station fired again. Human ships dodged at the last second. One human pilot laughed. They really thought that would stop us? Inside the station, human ground teams continued fighting in darkness, guided by hand signals and memory. They had trained for this. They always trained for this. The harvesters began to lose control. Their systems were failing. Their command structure was collapsing. For the first time, harvester communication showed something new. Panic. Admiral Hayes opened a channel to the station. This is humanity, he said. Your war ends now. There was no reply, only silence. Human forces pushed deeper, toward the station's core. Then sensors detected something terrifying. The station began charging a self-destruct sequence. KRYTH commanders froze. If it explodes, it will take the entire system with it. Hayes did not hesitate. All units, maximum advance. Human ground teams ran toward the core, knowing they might not escape. Human ships closed in, ignoring damage. The countdown accelerated. The station began to glow. Inside the core chamber, human soldiers reached the final control node. The timer dropped below 1 minute. The KRYTH held their breath. Humans did not slow down. They never did. The countdown echoed through the harvester core station. 50 seconds. Human soldiers ran through broken corridors, smoke and fire filling the air. Warning lights flashed red. The walls trembled like they were alive and afraid. Captain Marachin led the team toward the control chamber. Her armor was cracked. One arm barely worked. She kept moving. Core room ahead, a soldier shouted. Behind them, the station screamed as systems failed. 40 seconds. Harvester defenders made their final stand. They came in waves, desperate and wild. Their movements were no longer calm or perfect. They were afraid. Humans noticed. They're panicking, one soldier said. Good, Chin replied. That means we're winning. The fight was brutal. Humans pushed forward inch by inch. Every step cost blood. Every breath burned. One soldier was pulled down by 3 harvesters. He detonated a charge and took them with him. No one stopped. 30 seconds. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Hayes watched the timer tick down. Damage reports flooded in. Ships were barely holding together. KRYTH evacuation status? He asked. Civilian fleets are clearing the system. An officer replied. They'll be safe. Hayes nodded. Then he looked back at the station. Ground teams, he said quietly. You need to stop that countdown. Inside the core chamber, Chen's team reached the control node. It was massive. Alien technology wrapped around a pulsing energy heart. No obvious shutdown system, a soldier said. It's not built to stop. Chun, clench your jaw. Then we break it. 20 seconds. Explosives were planted. Manual overrides were forced open. Sparks filled the room. The harvester command signal suddenly changed. Across all channels, a message burst through. Broken, chaotic. The harvesters were trying to communicate. They were begging. "Why do you continue?" the signal asked. Admiral Hayes responded. "Because you started this," he said. "And because someone has to end it." Inside the station, the countdown stalled. 15 seconds. 10. Then stopped. The station shuddered violently. The self-destruct failed. Across the battlefield, harvester ships froze in place. Their coordination vanished completely. Some powered down. Others drifted helplessly. The enemy was broken. A KRYTH officer stared at the sensors. They've stopped fighting. "They've learned," the elder replied. "Fear." Human ships did not celebrate. They moved in. One by one, harvester vessels were disabled. Boarding teams cleared them. Survivors were captured. No executions. No cruelty. Just finality. Inside the core chamber, Chen leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Blood ran down her face. Her team was silent. "We did it," someone whispered. "Yes," Chen replied. "Now let's get out." Human extraction ships arrived just as the station began collapsing from internal damage. The core imploded inward, not exploding, but folding in on itself. The nightmare structure vanished. The system grew quiet. For the first time in years, there was no battle, no alarms, no screams, just silence. KRYTH ships emerged from hiding. They saw the remains of the harvester fleet, drifting powerless. They saw human ships, damaged but steady, holding the line. The KRYTH Council addressed Admiral Hayes. "You saved us," the elder said. "We owe you everything." Hayes shook his head. "We did what anyone should," he replied. "We answered a call. But you destroyed a force that ended entire civilizations," the elder said. "No one else could." Hayes looked at the stars. "We came from a world that tried to kill us every day," he said. "This enemy was just another problem." The KRYTH realized something chilling. Humans did not see themselves as heroes. They saw themselves as survivors, as protectors, as the last line when everything else failed. As human fleets began repairs and recovery, a new message spread across the galaxy. The harvesters were gone. The impossible had happened. Civilizations that had hidden for generations emerged from the shadows. Trade routes reopened. Worlds dared to hope again. And one name spread faster than any other. Humanity, not as monsters, not as conquerors, but as something far more terrifying. The ones who answered when no one else would. Yet Admiral Hayes knew the truth. This war had changed something. The galaxy now knew humans were willing to fight, willing to bleed, willing to die, for others, and that knowledge would echo for a long time. Far away, in the quiet after battle, a human officer asked Hayes a simple question. "Sir, what happens now?" Hayes paused. "Now," he said, "the galaxy remembers who to call." The war ended without celebration. There were no cheers across the human fleet, no victory songs, only quiet movement as damaged ships drifted together and began repairs. Space was filled with wreckage, frozen reminders of what had almost destroyed the galaxy. The KRYTH world slowly powered their lights back on. Cities emerged from underground shelters. Refugee ships returned home. For the first time in many cycles, children looked up at the sky without fear. Human ships remained in orbit. They did not demand payment. They did not ask for territory. They did not claim power. They stayed until the KRYTH were safe. The KRYTH Council gathered again, this time in a chamber filled with light. The same elder stood before the council, but his posture was different now. He was no longer afraid. He was grateful. A secure channel opened to the human flagship. "Admiral Hayes," the elder said, "the harvesters are gone. The threat is over. Why do you still remain?" Hayes answered calmly, Because threats don't always stay dead, he said, and because rebuilding matters as much as fighting. The KRYTH listened in silence. Human engineers helped repair stations. Human medics treated alien wounded without hesitation, even when the biology was unfamiliar. Human soldiers stood guard beside KRYTH defenders. Side by side, many KRYTH found this strange. Humans joked during repairs. They shared food. They laughed even after everything they had seen. How can it be like this? One KRYTH officer asked. They survive their own world, the elder replied. This is peace to them. News of the war spread across the galaxy. Old empires that had hidden behind borders sent observers. Ancient species reviewed records long thought forgotten. Every archive added new warnings. Do not provoke humanity. Do not underestimate a death world species. Contact an emergency only. And yet, something else was added. Trustworthy in crisis. For the first time, humans were not feared alone. They were respected. Captain Marachin recovered aboard a medical ship. Her injuries would heal. Humans were good at that. She stared out a viewport at the distant stars. A KRYEH diplomat approached her carefully. You could have left, the alien said, after the station fell. Chin nodded. Yes. Why didn't you? Chin thought for a moment. Because someone once helped us. She said simply, long ago. We never forgot. The diplomat did not understand, but he remembered the words. Weeks later, the human fleet prepared to leave. KRYTH ships formed an honor line, something they had never done for outsiders. Lights flashed in respectful patterns. The elder spoke one final time. When the galaxy needed help, he said, we begged, and you answered. Hayes gave a small nod. That's what humans do, he replied. As the human ships entered hyperspace, silence returned to the system, but it was not the silence of fear. It was a silence of safety. Far away, on worlds untouched by the war, leaders gathered and spoke in quiet tones. What if another threat comes? One asked. Then we do the same thing. Another replied. We call Earth. Humanity returned home changed. The war did not make them proud. It made them careful. Human leaders updated defense networks. Fleets expanded quietly. Training intensified. They knew the galaxy was watching now, and they knew that someday another call would come. On Earth, people never learned all the details. They saw headlines. They honored the fallen. Then life continued, because on a death world, life always continues. Years passed. Then, deep in unexplored space, a small alien civilization faced extinction. An ancient enemy approached. Their fleets failed. Their worlds burned. They found an old record, a warning, and a hope. With shaking hands, they sent a signal, not to the Council, not to the empires, but to one distant star. The message was simple. We need help. Across human space, sensors activated. A familiar alert sounded. Admiral Hayes was long retired, but others stood ready. New commanders, new soldiers, same spirit. The response was sent without delay. Signal received. Human ships began to move. Once again, the galaxy learned a simple truth. When the universe is at its darkest, when all hope is gone, humans answer the call. And whatever threatens the galaxy next will learn why Earth is called a death world